Hi, I'm Cassie Villela. Welcome back to my channel. I'm a realtor, property manager, and investor here in the San Antonio, Texas area. And here we talk about all things real estate related, home maintenance in general, and San Antonio area related things. So if that's your cup of tea, then please click subscribe and give this video a like, and give us a shout out. Let us know what you're interested in. And so today's video, we're going to talk about how to sell a home when it has tenants. There could be two situations. There's probably multiple situations, but there's two main situations that this would occur. One would be if you have tenants in a property and they are moving out and you want to take that opportunity to sell the property. And so that's one. And then the other is if you have tenants and their lease is continuing for, several months longer, and for whatever reason you need to sell the property. So I'm going to give you two case studies. I'm a property manager, so this is something that, happens quite a bit. And I'm going to give you two examples of how we handled that process, because everybody is anxious. Everybody has a lot of questions, and it's something that feels like it's going to be really hard. But at the end of the day, if everybody stays cooperative and helpful and thoughtful, it can work. It's going to be fine. So the first example is that one where the tenant was moving out and the owner wanted to go ahead and take that opportunity to sell the property. And so this also had that added difficulty of being towards the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. So you kind of have a couple of difficult things. You've got a tenant that's moving out, that's going to have to accommodate showings, and then you've got COVID-19 that they're worried about on top of that. And this particular tenant was very concerned about COVID-19 because he had an elderly parent staying with him. And so it was just a big cause of concern for everyone. And so what we ultimately decided to do when I talked with him is I listed the property early in the week, and we set up, I said only Saturday showings. We're only going to do just one day of showings. And then he and his family went and, left the house for that day, and just work on the entire day. That way they didn't have to interact with anybody. And then they had a house cleaner come and clean before they came back. And so that kept them feeling safe, and it allowed everybody to come in and do their showings. And we ended up having 15 showings that day. And then we received 4 or 5 offers over the next couple of days, got it under contract, and it was done. Like, the tenant was done having to do showings. So he was happy, the owner was happy, everything was fine. He accommodated the inspection and appraisal just fine, but, that was, we just lucked out that it got sold that first weekend. So that's one strategy, is like, hey, we know it's going to suck. You're going to have to let strangers in your house, and that you're renting, and nobody likes that, right? Like, nobody's excited about that idea. We just did the best we could to accommodate him and make it as safe as possible for him. We also, I talked to him and I found out what was the most important thing to him. And, in his case, there was a cultural thing about never wearing shoes in the house. And so we made that a big deal, on the showings. I said, please remove your shoes. There was a basket by the door, the whole 9 yards. Like, make sure you do this thing, because this is a big deal to this tenant. A lot of people, when they're getting ready to do this, there's actually a clause in most leases. It's in the standard Texas Association of Realtors lease, like the TAR lease. There is a clause that gives the landlord the right to put a key box on the property and do showings for the last either 30 or 60 days that the tenant is in the property. And the tenant can pay to have that revoked, but most don't or don't want to. But even though you have the legal right to do something, doesn't mean that you need to be like, well, I have the legal right to do this, so you have to do what I say. Like, that's not a good strategy for anybody. The best way to do it is to talk with the person, figure out what they need, try to be as accommodating as possible. In the second example, the property, it's actually under contract right now. The property had a tenant that is going to stay. So her lease is not up for a long time. And so in this particular situation, your only buyer is going to be an investor. Because whoever buys the property, if you've got a tenant living in it, is going to have to honor the terms of the lease you have with that tenant. A person looking for a house to live in is probably not going to be excited about waiting around 6 or 8 months for the lease to expire so they can move in, right? So you're pretty much limited to investors. With that in mind, we did the marketing geared towards investors on the MLS. It was like calling all investors, turnkey rental property. And I, put in all of the things that investors would want to know. On my social media marketing, same thing. So we marketed it to investors. And then I called the tenant again and I said, how can we accommodate you? How can we make this easy on you? And we came up with a schedule that worked with her work schedule. And wasn't too much. And, then she was very nice and very cooperative and kept the house, sparkling clean, and it worked with us because we were working with her, so it was a win-win situation. And then in both cases, I actually bought the tenant like a gift card from Uber Eats or DoorDash or something like that. I can't remember. But I got them a gift card to say thank you. Because again, even though, the owner has a right to do it and they have to let you do it, they don't have to be nice about it. They don't have to be super nice to anybody coming to see the house. And they don't have to keep the house clean for showings. And, you want to acknowledge that, hey, I know this is not the best situation. I know that you don't want to have people doing showings, and I appreciate you letting us do this. That's just the best way to start off, because if you have a tenant that the buyer is going to have to become their landlord, when that buyer's doing a showing, when they're looking at the house, they're also looking at that tenant, right? So that tenant can really ruin your deal if they are not on your side. And so you want to make sure that you keep everybody happy. It's a tall order, but it can be done. Be thoughtful, be polite, be respectful, try to be accommodating, try to just recognize that, hey, this is hard, but we can do it together. And you can get it done. In both cases, the house was under contract within a week. So it's definitely something that is done all the time, but there's a way to do it easily, and there's a way to do it, well, I guess I shouldn't say easily, because that's a lot, it's a lot of work to call and be accommodating and do all of those things. So I guess there's a way to do it positively, and there's a way to do it negatively. And in my general philosophy about real estate is that negotiating is about trying to make it a win-win situation for everyone, trying to, do the right thing and be a good person and get everybody's needs met. That's a better negotiating strategy than trying to just bully people or say, this is what you have to do, I don't care if you like it or not. So that's my case studies about selling a house that has a tenant in. There are a couple of minor differences in the closing process when there's a tenant occupying the home, because like the owner will have to transfer the security deposit to the buyer, some minor things like that. But it's not really that much different than selling a home, without a tenant. Just that showing and setting it up is really the crucial part that's different. So if you have any other questions about that process or comments, or if you want to share an experience that you've had selling a property with a tenant, then please comment below, let us know, and I'll see you next video.